in Scientology, there's a thing called an E-meter, which literally looks like a little easy bake oven. It's kind of, anyone listening, you're not going to be able to see it, but it's kind of this sort of size, you know, maybe 2 heads wide, I suppose. I don't know how to describe that size. How do you...
That's so f***ed up presents. That's so f***ed up presents. That's so f***ed up presents. That's so f***ed up presents.
Alex, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready as ever. Let's do it. Let's go.
Me too. I'm so excited. I just can't hide it. So, hey everybody. Welcome to a very special crossover between That's So Fucked Up the podcast and famed...
I wouldn't go that far.
No?
I wouldn't say famed.
You're doing pretty good though. YouTuber Apostate Alex. We will be having the video version on his channel on YouTube and the audio version here on the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Ashley Richards.
Hi, I'm Apostate Alex. Do you want me to do like an intro?
No,
This is our first one, guys.
This
is our
is
first
amazing.
one, guys. Give us a chance. But my name's Apostate Alex. Yeah, I am a former Scientologist.
Wait, Alex,
God,
we got to say the name of the show. We got to say
okay,
it.
sorry.
Okay.
We should have talked about this before we did it.
No, this is perfect. Everything is as it should be. So, we're Alex and Ashley, and this is Ash and Alex Do Scientology. Da da da.
Boom. We both did the same thing. Love it.
It's gonna be super fun. As we know, or as I just found out, I guess Alex is more, well, I don't guess, I know that he's definitely more up in the Scientology community than I am. So, Alex, why don't you first introduce yourself to my listeners, and then I'll introduce myself to your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or,
so,
sorry, viewers, I guess.
Viewers, yeah. So,
Yeah.
For anyone listening on Ashley's podcast, That's So Fucked Up, you can watch the video if you want to on my channel. So I'm uploading the video, and vice versa. If you're watching the video, please go and also, why not stick it on in the background, listen to it, so then we both get the stats for it, right? Help each other out.
I mean, listen to these gorgeous voices of ours. I mean,
just on repeat.
We're repping America. We're repping the UK. So much representing happening.
Transatlantic, foreign relations.
It's amazing. I'm so here for it. So, Alex, yeah. So, why are you the dude to tell us about Scientology?
So hello to everyone on That's So Fucked Up who don't know me. My name is Alex. Apostate Alex is my name on YouTube. I am a former Scientologist. So I used to be the director of public book sales at the Church of Scientology in London. I wasn't like brought up in a Scientology family or anything like that. I joined when I was a teenager because I thought that was the right thing to do.
Did you take a stress test, or like what brought you in?
We've got a story to tell here, Ashley. I joined, I got kicked out, and then I rejoined, and then I got kicked out again.
What?
And then a load of time passed, and I kind of moved on with my life, and then realized that it was still affecting me, and thought, actually, you know what, I want to do some work on it, did some therapy, and then started a YouTube channel. So I'm now currently only like not even 3 months in. And yeah, it's like a really welcoming, really nice space, really supportive. And I just basically make videos about Scientology, which is, you know, I can do all day, every day. So yeah, welcome to my channel actually as well.
And you're killing it.
Thank you. And so are you. I understand you had a really important date that just passed, right?
We did. We just had our 3-year podiversary, and
podiversary, is that what it's called?
Oh yeah,
I'm
And
not in the podcast space. That's
no, I
so
know. I'm not in the YouTube space,
Podiversary.
so that's why I called your, audience listeners. But the day after the date of our first release 3 years ago, we hit, 500,000 downloads. So, I really wanted it to happen on the day because that would have been amazing, but we did hit 500,000 the next day, so thank you so much to everybody who's been listening and supporting. I love those rolling off my tongue, those words. 500,000. It feels good. Feels good to say.
It's an amazing accomplishment. I think you should be really proud of yourself, and I'm nowhere near that. I've got like 4,000 subscribers or 4,200, but considering I've only been going 2.5 months or something, I think that's pretty good going. I'm impressed, but 500,000 is like out of this world for
No,
me.
stop
Well
it.
done.
You hang up.
You
No,
stop
y
it.
no, you stop. And, for anybody who is an Alex fan over on the YouTube, I'm Ashley Richards, the host of That's So Fucked Up the podcast. I love cults. Not, I hate them, but I have a
I was gonna say, I think
passion.
you need to clarify that point there.
Yeah, I have a passion for cults because I think that they are the most nefarious groups around. They're, they ruin lives. And I'm so glad that we're coming into more of a space where they're getting talked about because even MLMs are fucking cults. I mean, don't get me started on everything that's a cult. And I don't know. I think it is a little bit of a spectrum. I think like there are some cults that are good, like our cult, join the Discord. Join me and Alex's Discord, actually. Mine is just go to tsfuthepodcast.com, click play with us, and that'll take you straight to our Discord. Alex, how do they join your Discord cult?
So so I'm in your Discord. So people reach out to me on that. I'll be there. And it's not technically my Discord. It's kind of a community thing. So there's a guy called Doug Kramer who's another former Scientologist that's on YouTube, and his channel was called Days But Not Confused, and his channel got taken down basically. Some ad
Fair
revenue.
game.
No, it wasn't anything to do with Scientology. It was something like copyright or something. But anyway, his channel got taken down. So we started together a Discord server, and
Okay.
then he got his channel back up and running again. So now he's doing both. But it's called Dazed But Not Confused with Z's rather than S's. In the Z in the confused, because that's the name of his channel. But actually, it's like a really nice community. There's maybe 130 or something people in there. It's not all former Scientologists. It's like XJW shows witnesses. It's Mormons. It's people who
Oh, yeah.
haven't got any affiliation with any sort of cult or coercive group, and they just want to learn, and they're interesting, like cult watchers, I suppose. And it's just a really nice, like, fun community. It's like a pets picture channel. You can see pictures of dogs.
We
and
have that in our fucking Discord too. Yeah, I think both of our Discords are a lot more about kind of community building than
yeah.
dissecting the episodes. And I mean, it's about that too, but it's also just fun. So come join our Discord cults. Again, a little bit more about me. So my podcast is about cults, murder, and other generally fucked up stuff. I really lean towards the generally fucked up and weird stuff, and cults and coercive groups are a big passion of mine, and talking about them and spreading the word about them. Yeah, they fucking ruin lives, and there's a new cult that pops up every day, especially with, people being so homebody and so many charismatic people like Teal Swan existing online. I mean, how many cult leaders are, recruiting from YouTube right now?
Honestly, it's like it's definitely a spectrum, right? If you look at what a cult actually is, you look at things like, it's if people are like gym freaks, right? They go to the gym and they've got their buddies and they're like really into it and they're doing their protein shakes, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? But it is a
Right.
little bit culty, right? And cults
Yeah.
are a spectrum because being in a cult, being part of like a little community that are really focused on something, and you know, everyone generally has at least one friend they know of that's like really into something, and they're like, this is my thing, and they're kind of like, their friends will say, oh, you're a bit different when you're around that group of people. Like, that's a culty thing, but there's nothing wrong with it. I think the difference is when it becomes like a coercive relationship,
Right.
and coercive control, which it then becomes fairly harmful.
Which even can be, cults of one, narcissistic relationships. And so in the regular show, we talk about all that stuff. I do a spinoff on my channel as well, where we talk about everything. We take deep dives for a month where we talk about everything from the Black Dahlia or Elizabeth Short's murder and her murderer and the insane web of destruction that the man who murdered her caused. And then we did Japan for a month where we talked about everything from fart festivals and sex dolls to the suicide forest
It's a bit
and
of a
the
jump there.
2011 tsunami. I mean, I just like to explore lots of different things. So, my previous co-host and I decided to do a Bible segment because she had been in a Pentecostal cult and I've never picked up a Bible in my life. And I was like, some of these stories sound super crazy. Can you tell them to me? So we went through Genesis in 4 episodes. The segment is a Patreon exclusive and it's called Fucked Up Bible School. And
I love it. I was just gonna say, I listened to, so the Adam and Eve like origination. I think it's the first episode in that series is available on your website, so you don't have to be on Patreon. And I listened to that. I think that was the first one I listened to of yours, and it was so hilarious. Just like coming into it with a fresh perspective of like, actually, the whole story of Adam and Eve, when you look at it with that perspective, it's hilarious and it is really fucked up. And it was a really good
oh,
series. I really enjoy it. So I'm thankful that you've brought me on to do our own little thing about
yeah.
Scientology.
Well, I mean, the Bible segment was so popular and it became my favorite segment basically, which is so weird. I would not have expected that. Um, but seriously, if you put it into the category of other generally fucked up stuff, I think the Bible tops any like true crime-ish story that I've talked about. I'm
Well,
like,
you just wait for the Scientology story. This is gonna blow you out of the
"Ooh!"
water. Honestly, it's
So I'm so
yeah.
excited to examine Scientology. I reached out to Alex and was like, "Hey, can we do a Dianetics?" Because I thought that that was the Scientology textbook, um, like like the Bible or the Book of Mormon. And Alex explained to me that was pretty off. So basically, I'm coming in not knowing much. I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to first give Alex the opportunity to tell me things. And I think today we are going to start with learning a little bit about you. But before we do that, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. So we are back. And yeah, Alex, t- tell me about it, stud.
Um, so yeah, I mean, Scientology is such a huge subject, and there are so many things about it that are pretty fucked up. And I wanted to preface before we start. I wanted to preface this with saying that I'm a former Scientologist, right? And people who have been through Scientology have had good experiences. Most people have had bad experiences, and the idea of me doing this is not to make fun of or joke about people's trauma or abuses and that sort of thing. The reason I'm doing this is because you have to add some sort of comedy and some sort of lightheartedness to it, because otherwise you end up in this really like dark, miserable, horrible place. So the idea that I'm doing here is like kind of looking at things with a fresh pair of eyes and going, actually, when you look at it when you're out, that is kind of pretty fucked up. And so that's why I'm doing it. In terms of my story, yeah, so I was in school. I was like 15 or 16, And, you know, like when you're a teenager, you're going through, you're like, you know, finding who you are and what your purpose is in life and all of that. And that's like your prime for the picking in Scientology. In Scientology, it's all about like making the able more able. That's their like policy, right? So they
Right.
always look for people who are in a point in their life that's like they're questioning, or they've had some sort of trauma, you know, they've been in a car crash, or they've lost their job, or they're whatever, right? Or they're, you know, a teenager.
They're they're
And that's
vulnerable. They're vulnerable.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect time for Scientology to come in. And I have a different perspective on this. I'm going to go on a tangent now. I was director of public book sales, so my job was to sell books to new people in Scientology, like to get people into Scientology. And this is a bit of a tangent, but the way that you sell the book, you have to find what's called a ruin, right? It's literally called a ruin, right?
Mhm.
What that means is like what is really fucking up your life, right? What is messing you up? What do you not like about yourself? You know, what are you not happy about? And it could be like, oh, you know, I'm in a relationship that I'm not happy with, or it could be, you know, I'm not really happy at work, like whatever it is. I have to find essentially your ruin. Like, what is it that you want to change about your life? Because then, once you've got that person to open up, you then present Scientology and Dianetics, the book, as the solution to that.
Right. So what do you just walk up and you're like, "What's up? I'm Alex." So like, "What's your trauma, dog?"
Yeah.
Or how do you get into that?
Essentially, I mean, there's loads of different ways you can sell books, but the most common, the most frequent tactic that we used was using what's called a stress test. So in Scientology, there's a thing called an e-meter, which literally looks like a little easy bake oven. It's like kind of, for anyone listening, you're not going to be able to see it, but it's kind of this sort of size, you know, maybe 2 heads wide, I
Oh.
suppose. I don't know how to describe that size. How do you? I don't know.
I don't know, but 2
Like,
heads was fucking weird, but I dig it.
but it's like, so it's this little thing, right, that you put on the table, and it's got like a needle on it that kind of moves around, right?
Yeah.
And it's connected to these 2 metal things that look like soup cans, right?
Okay, can I tell you?
In itself, it's already fucked up, right? Carry
I
on.
already
Yes. What?
took one of these tests in college.
Tell me everything. I want to know.
So,
How was it? Where were you? What were you doing?
you know, this
Did you buy the
somebody
book?
no, fuck I don't know. I've said this several times, so sorry guys for a broken record, but this is for Alex's people. I am mind boggled that I've never joined a cult. It's insanity. I've been vulnerable and ripe for the picking most of my life. And I believe most things. I'm super gullible and pretty listen, you guys, I don't want to make this take credibility away, but I would call myself a conspiracy theorist. But if you look up the definition, that's just somebody who doesn't trust the government. So, you know what? If that makes me fucking crazy, then sure. What's my fucking point here? Okay. So I took the stress test. This guy was like, somebody was chilling on campus. They're like, "Hey, do you want to take a stress test?" And obviously I was stressed. So I was like, sure. Um, so I held the cans. They were like, "You are super stressed." And I was like, "I know." And then I don't know, man, what's in Dianetics? Because I feel like I got turned off pretty quick and I didn't have a lot of culty knowledge at that point.
Yeah, so the stress test is like, that's the most frequent way of selling the book, right? So you hold these metal cans that's connected to this e-meter, and essentially it's kind of like a lie detector. What it does is it passes a very small amount of electric current through your body, right? In a
Mhm.
similar way of like a touchscreen phone, right? The way that
Mhm.
works is your finger completes the circuit. It's the same with this. So it doesn't hurt, it's not shocking, whatever, it's very small. But essentially, it's a resistance meter. So the e-meter, the little needle on the dial, will move according to how the resistance in your body changes. That's all it does. That's all it is. But L. Ron Hubbard, who founded Scientology, takes it one step further. and says the reason the needle reacts and changes and the resistance and all this and it moves is because it's linked to your thoughts. Right. So if you think about something it's like traumatic or negative or whatever, then you'll get a read on the needle. And there's no scientific basis behind any of this. There's no proof that this is actually what the needle, what the e-meter is registering. But essentially what you do is you sit someone down like you did opposite someone with the e-meter and you go, what's if essentially it's like, think of a trauma or a past bad experience in your life. Like what's most annoying you in your life, or what do you not like about yourself? Like it gets pretty deep very quickly. And you get like a read on there's a thing called a pinch test, right? So you're holding the cans and someone might give you a light pinch and then you see the needle move because the resistance changes, and kind of people go, oh, wow, yeah, the needle is moving according to what I'm thinking because I'm remembering the pain of being pinched or whatever. And so the idea is you use it, and once you get that person to realize that like the needle responds to things that you're thinking or doing, then you kind of go in deep and you go like, okay, what's the one thing in your life what's the one, I think the words, if I remember rightly in the actual sales patter, like the script we had to learn, was what is the one thing that is ruining your life right now?
And so I'm guessing this happened fucking 15 years ago. So I'm sitting in the fucking quad. I don't know if you know. Do you know what that is as an
Yes,
English
yeah.
person? Okay. I feel like somebody told me they didn't know what a quad was. Oh, it was my partner. He's Danish. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's the fucking quad. What are you talking about?
Like a little square, right? With a building that goes all the way around,
kind of
like a
like
courtyard.
and you like hang out.
Yeah. Where the cool kids hang out in the quad.
Right. So, or just like, where you pass from class to class and whatnot. And so essentially this conversation.
Wait, they were set up in your school?
Yes.
Like actually inside, not on the street outside, like actually inside your
In the
university.
fucking quad, bro. Like right by
where
the
was this?
library.
What city?
Santa Cruz, California. Goddamn
So
hippies.
interesting. Wow.
They're like, sure, yeah, no problem. Come on to our fucking campus and let your fucking cult take stress. Like, what the fuck?
Did they get a load of abuse? Did they get people coming past being like, Xenu, you believe in aliens, cult, and all of that? Or were people pretty chilled?
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I just remember thinking, well, I'm stressed, so I'll take this stress test. And then I don't like people selling me on things. I don't like that. I'm immediately turned off. And people had always told me, oh, you should be a salesperson. You would be so good at it. You have like the gift of gab. I'm actually super introverted. People drain the fuck out of me. I'm just good at being extroverted, what I want or need to be. But I don't like when I get suspicious when people try to sell me on something. It's like, oh, you have that problem? Well, guess what? I have the fucking solution. Even I was going to this like kind of like Hindu type of drumming circle. Fuck, I'm probably getting that really right and sound like an asshole or wrong. Basically, we would say God's name and it was like a call and response type of thing. And like everybody would like shake a tambourine or whatever. It was like fun, like music time, and you'd like be connecting with God. And I was getting sober at the time. So I was definitely like, again, weird that I didn't join a cult because I was like looking for my purpose and shit.
Prime time. Yeah.
But I had been to like, I don't know, maybe 10 of their little meetups. And then one day they're like, well, there's only one truth, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go now. Anytime somebody tells me we have the answer or we are the only fucking ones who know, then I call bullshit because nobody knows. And I'm feeling really proud of myself for apparently knowing that at 19. I think smoking weed makes you smarter, dude, like more aware of cults trying to get you because you're paranoid.
You're already at a level. Yeah.
You're like, I'm hungry and I'm also suspicious of you. I'm going to go smoke another bowl. You do you. This is weird.
And before I give you all of my money to do your services, if you got some snacks?
Dude, I
that I
feel
can
like I found out about Xeno or the volcano or something weird in
Mhm.
that first meeting that turned me off. But they wouldn't have told me
So
that,
no,
right?
absolutely not. I think just
No.
going back to your point of like when they present it as like the only answer, like this is where Scientology is like it has been described as like the cult of all cults, right? The mother
Mhm.
of all cults, because you have all these like coercive techniques and like all of this sort of stuff. And what makes Scientology so fucked up is it's kind of like all of those like little coercive control techniques and things that are used in cults and so on, all of them are in like one big package. Whereas other groups that may be culty or may be considered cults may have a large number of them. But there was a scientific study, a professor of something, I don't know, did a study and realized that like Scientology is the only cult or coercive group or whatever that uses all of the techniques, and that's why it is so kind of huge and well known for being coercive. But essentially, they will never present it to you as the solution, right? Scientology get you in by saying, so once I found your ruin, right, and you
Mhm.
like what is ruining your life, there used to be a saying, right, we had on
Mhm.
staff that crying is buying, right? If I
Oh
can get
my
you
god.
if I'm trying to sell you the book and you're crying, right? That means I've found your ruin. I found what's actually fucking you up, like what's upsetting you, because you're crying, right? So I've clearly, the Scientology word is impinged on you and figured out what it is that you're really upset about and what you want to change. So if you're crying, you're going to buy the book, right? Because I've made you realize how much of a problem this is. So it's really easy then to present Dianetics is the solution to that.
All I really remember is that I took the stress test. I might have thought that it was weird that this person in the quad at my school was asking me to tell them my most traumatic shit. I might have said, "You know what? I have a therapist. This is weird.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. And part of the sales tactic is like, you know, I would go book selling all the time. It's my job. So like people would come, they'd sit down, they'd do the stress test. And sometimes you make the decision to be like, cool, great, thank you very much. See you later. Because you just recognize there's no point in me wasting my time trying to sell you this book because
They're not gonna
you're not
cry.
interested. You're not going to, but yeah. So sometimes you will do the stress test and they'll be like, yeah, and that's it. See you later. But the majority of the time, they'll try and engage you in some sort of conversation of like, if you could change one thing in your life, what would it be? And then you don't need to answer, you just need to think about it. And the needle will move on the meter. And then you go, that there. What was it you just thought of? And they were like, oh, I don't know, I had an argument with my wife the other day, or I hadn't, I bought a burger at McDonald's and it was like they had the wrong salad in it or something. Like whatever it is, right? You just thought of. You're like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. And if it's something major, like if it's a relationship issue or a family thing or whatever, you then go into more like, okay, tell me more about that. Why is it annoying you? Why is it upsetting you? How would you change it if you could, blah blah. But if it's like the burger incident, you're just like, okay, cool, now think of something else that's really upsetting you or something you want to change in your life. So you basically keep doing these questions until you get a needle read on the meter. And then once you found out, you engage in the conversation to find out what you want to change about yourself. And then you go, Dianetics is a solution to that. If you buy this book and read it, you'll understand why that's upsetting you. But they don't present it to you as like, when you first start in Scientology, it's never, you have to be a Scientologist now, and this is the only answer. It's very, very gradual, right? So
Right.
they have
That's
they
too
have
much. That's pushy. People don't like that. I don't
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Like you said, right? You don't like being sold stuff. So they kind of look at it as they have these things called life improvement courses, right? And this is literally like how to live a happier life, how to have a better marriage, problems at work, the success through communication course, like
Okay.
any
Ooh,
sort of area of life. Yeah.
ooh, comment. So, I think here's where, as the non-Scientologist, I bring some of the fun in because I have so many questions. So, okay, um
Great question.
fuck, shut up. I totally lost it. Hold on. Okay. So, something that I understand about, churches or cults or whatever is if you kind of stay on the perimeters, you might actually like have a kind of good time and learn some good things. Maybe you just attend a course on relationships and that's all you ever do. Or you take a couple classes and it is helpful information because I'm sure they're not like, well, it's going to change your and help your relationship joining Scientology, right? They're
Yeah.
not going to do that. Or, is that the higher up you get into a cult, the more abused you get, essentially. And the
Mhm.
more abuse you therefore have to put on other people because you have power. And is that pretty, would you say that's right? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Scientology, when you first get in, is like these introductory, they're called life improvement courses. And it's very much like the sales tactic is like trying to find what's ruining you in your life, what you don't like about yourself. Because that, like, if you were to meet a stranger in the street and they, you would open up, you get the person to open up like a therapist, right? And say everything about what you don't like about yourself and what you want to change. And opening up, like, when you do that, that kind of stirs stuff up in your mind, and therefore it becomes a bigger problem than perhaps it might be in reality. So
Mhm.
the Scientology, they're like, okay, well, you said that you were really upset about this, and like, don't you want to change that? Like, that's not great in your life, right? Why you want to do something about that? You want to be more in control, right? So you
Mhm.
do these little life improvement courses, and yeah, 100% agree with you that the majority of Scientologists are not staff members or commit like they're parishioners that are paying, doing services, and there are people who do get wins from it, right? Scientology, there has to be a draw. If it didn't have some sort of benefits and wins, they call it in Scientology a win, at the beginning, no one would ever join, right? So these
Mhm.
introductory courses are very much geared towards like it's a little tool or a technique that you can use that like will help you live a better life. It will help you communicate better. It will help you deal with problems at work or whatever it is, right? Make you more efficient. So you do the course, which is normally the beginning courses are like $50, right?
Mhm.
Maybe $100 if you do like a seminar or something, but very,
Mhm.
very like in Scientology terms, cheap. Not really expensive things. It's not committal. You don't have to sign your life away. You're not going to pay millions of dollars. And so you're like, okay, cool, I'll do it. And then when you finish that course, part of the program when you finish doing the course, right, is you then get routed. So there's a thing called routing in Scientology. You would say routing in American. Like you would move, like you go and see the person, like the examiner, to sign you off that you finished the course, and then you go and see the the registrar, which is basically a salesperson. So
Mm.
finish the course, end you in a place where you're sat in front of the salesperson, who then goes, "All right, cool. This is the next thing you need to do," right? And in Scientology, it's all about
And
making it
they're obviously gonna tell you, "Oh my god, if you think you benefited from that course, let me tell you about this fucking course."
yeah.
And then, I actually read Amanda Montell's book, Cultish, shout out Amanda, and she said that one time her and her friend went to, like, the main Scientology building in LA, and they, I don't know, got a tour or some shit, and
Mhm.
literally felt at the end like they weren't allowed to leave. Like, they
Yeah.
actually felt kinda, like, nervous. Uh, like, "If we don't sign some like, are you can we get out of this room?" Like, it kept she said it kept going from, like, one room, then you're in a deeper room, and then all of a sudden, you're trapped in a Scientology it sounded terrifying, but they got
Yeah.
out. But
Good. That's good to hear. Because the
they're
thing is,
okay.
right, this is one thing to understand, right? Scientologists are generally good people, right? The people in Scientology aren't sat there or standing there thinking, how can I manipulate this person, right? They think that it is the best way of helping someone, right? They
So
think
when
it's
you're
the
trying
best
to
thing
get
to do.
somebody to cry and buy, you
Oh,
think you're
yeah.
helping them.
There is a policy that L. Ron Hubbard wrote that literally said you have to invade someone's privacy. There is no such thing as privacy when trying to sell a book, because if you don't invade someone's privacy, you won't get what's ruining their life, and therefore you won't be able to sell the book. And there's this thing called the greatest good, right?
But
If
by
you
selling the book, it's not about like the money or the sales, right? It's because you're helping. Well, maybe you're just about to fucking tell me the greatest good, like the greatest number of people. Is that
Yeah, like the thinking in Scientology is if I have to upset you a little bit and ask you some private question about your upset in life that's really traumatic or whatever, right? Yeah, that's a horrible thing to do, to bring that up to a stranger and get them to talk about it and they're crying and they're upset or whatever. But ultimately, I have to do that because I want to help you, right? And
Mm.
in order to help you, to get you to buy the book, you have to you have to do that. It's like a necessary thing for the greatest good. So everything in Scientology is captured under this like greatest good banner, I suppose, which is just fucked up.
So I'm guessing that you have heard L. Ron Hubbard's actual quote that the best way to make money is to start a religion.
Mm.
Have you heard
So
that? You've heard that,
yeah,
right?
this is one of those things that like a lot of people said that he said, but there is actually no evidence that he did say that. And
Get
that's
this
not
shit
me.
out of here. Damn it.
That's not me saying, defending Scientology because I used to be in Scientology. Like genuinely,
Oh, I believe you.
actually,
Yeah.
if you look into it, there is no evidence that he actually said it. I think it came from a rumor. And I think the story is when you look really deep into it, someone was like saw him at the bar or something, and he heard him say it, and it all just went from there. It's not a policy. It's not a thing that he wrote down. He was a prolific writer. He actually has the Guinness Book of World Records. He has a record for the most published author.
Okay. And then here's the thing.
But
He
that doesn't mean he
started
didn't know
off
it. I totally
okay.
think that's
No,
the
he definitely might have. Right, but we don't know that historically accurately. That's cool. We don't want to our I never want to spread information about groups good or bad, or people, etc. Um but he did start off, as you just said, as a science fiction writer,
Oh yeah.
and then based his religion off of one of his fictional science fiction books. Am I right?
This is one of my favorite things about Scientology in like the fucked up world, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the Scientology answer that I would give when I was on staff, right?
Okay.
And then I'll
Okay.
give you the truth, right?
Yay!
So
I love
if
that.
you were to come in, right, to the church, right, and you're walking in, you're like, what's this place? I've heard about Scientology. I want to look about blah, blah, blah. You're walking around the, place and just wanting to find out more for whatever
Mhm.
reason.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you say like, I heard you guys believe in like aliens, right? This Xenu guy, right?
Right.
In Scientology, my answer, everyone has a different answer to this, but the answer that we would say in London Org would be, yeah, look, I don't actually know where that comes from because, right, L. Ron Hubbard, who founded Scientology, he was a science fiction writer before he started Scientology, right? And
Mhm.
he was a prolific science fiction writer, right? He did a lot of that. He wrote comics and books and stuff all about aliens and stuff. And he did that to raise money to fund his research into the mind. And then with that money, he then started Scientology and Dianetics. And people wrongly think that we believe in his science fiction stories, which is just completely false. We don't believe in his science fiction stories. I've been in the church for 6 months or whatever it was. I would know, right? I would know if we believed in aliens. I've not seen anything that says anything about aliens, right? And I've totally heard the story, like totally get it. And to be honest, I think it'd be quite cool if like we believed in aliens. Like
Hold
I
on.
could get on board with that.
So, when people were
But no, we
asking
don't
you and you were
believe in
new,
aliens.
when people were asking you when you were new, that was your answer because that's really what you thought?
So this is the cognitive
Because
dissonance
you weren't fucking
because
OT8 yet. I know that shit. Okay, Alex.
yes, this is the thing. So you don't hear that story about Xenu and warlords and all of that until you get to a level called OT3, right?
Oh
Operating
shit.
Satan.
I got
So
right. I got it wrong. I said 8.
no, OT8 is the top of the bridge. That's the furthest you can get.
Ah, okay.
OT3 is where you hear about the Xenu story. OT Thetan is just like a Scientology word for spirit. Like you're a spiritual being, you're a thetan, right? So an operating thetan is someone that's in control of your like spiritual life, I
Well,
suppose.
isn't it like a little alien that attaches to you? What's
Yeah,
the
so essentially when you get to that level, the actual story is
real?
that
Wait, should we talk about it? Spoilies? I don't know. I don't think we should talk about it.
we're gonna do the next episode, right? We're gonna dissect the bridge. So
Right.
actually, this little teaser, right? Let's
Okay.
not talk about it, and you need to come back for the next episode where we're gonna talk about the Xenia story. We're gonna talk about the bridge and all those steps, right?
Yes.
So there's a crazy story involving aliens, but you don't hear that story until you get to a certain point in Scientology, right? So even though I'd only been in for 6 months or a year or whatever, like early on in my time, you've got to remember you don't sign up to work for the church unless you're already like indoctrinated and believe that this is the way to help people, right? So
Mhm.
you're already at a point of like, indoctrination. So
How'd they
yeah,
oh,
absolutely.
sorry, question. Sorry, question. How did they get you at, like, 16, 17? They
Yeah.
were that's, like, hella young. Were they just on the streets, or did you wander into their building? What happened?
Obviously, I made a mistake.
Well, here
I
you are
fucked up.
today. Here you are today. So I don't really
That's true.
honestly believe in mistakes. I think that what the fuck, man? You wouldn't be sitting here with me today doing this, which I'm really enjoying, if if you hadn't have gone 3 years of torture in a cult. So I'm really glad that happened to you. I'm just kidding. I'm
But
just kidding.
that's not an advert for anyone else to go and join Scientology
No, you
and,
guys, please don't
you know,
join
don't
any
do that,
cults. No,
please.
no
But
cults.
also, if you wanna do that, that's fine. Like, you are free to
No.
believe in whatever you believe in, right? You can believe in whatever you want, and I won't judge you. I personally would not recommend this particular belief set, but if you choose to do that, then go ahead.
I for my thing is as long as you're not hurting other people
Yeah.
and other people aren't hurting you.
And this is a thing, like when I was saying about selling books earlier, right? And getting
Mhm.
them to cry and all of that. You don't think of it at the time, but I'm manipulating your emotions, right? I'm trying to
Yeah.
get you to cry, to open up about things. And I'm literally manipulating you, right? But you
Yeah.
don't think of that at the time. Like you don't realize that that's what you're doing until you leave.
Okay,
Yeah.
wait. So how did they get you as a teen? You didn't tell me.
So, yeah, so I was like, I watched the BBC Panorama documentary about Scientology that was really negative and talking about these abuses and horrible stories and things. And I took that on board. And I did some research.
Mhm.
And there was a moment in the BBC Panorama documentary where John Sweeney, the presenter guy, was like yelling and angry. And I looked at that going, this guy's clearly annoyed, right, at Scientology. He's not going to present it in
He's not
the best
unbiased.
light, right? Yeah, so he could potentially be biased. And also, I don't 100% believe in, following the word of the media and the news to the T. Whatever you read in the news or in the media, right? You have to look at it from an open mind, right? Because there's always biases, there's always different opinions and perspectives. So I don't think you should believe everything you watch on TV or everything you read. Like you should do your own research.
No.
And so
Absolutely.
and so I was doing research, I was reading about it and hearing about all these horrible things. But I'm quite a balanced person, and I was like, well, why don't I go in and like see what they've got to say for themselves, right? I did a personality test
Oh,
online and went in and was very aware of all these allegations of it being a cult and manipulation and all of this stuff. And so I was like, fully, you're not going to manipulate me.
I
Like,
got questions.
yeah, like, go for it. I'm like, you're not going to crack me.
Bring it on, motherfuckers. Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember walking in and one of the first questions I asked the person I first spoke to, who I ended up working with later, was, do you believe in aliens? Because like I could get on board with that, right? I'm a teenager. I believe in like, there's lots of planets and space and stuff out there. Like I could, if you believe in aliens, like that's cool. I'm not going to judge you. Like,
I
cool,
believe in
man. Like
aliens,
great.
but I don't believe in Scientology.
You don't believe in. I was going to say the story then, but we're saving it for the next episode.
Yeah, no.
Um,
Zip it.
But yeah, I was intense, and I was like, look, I've heard about these policies of like disconnecting people, and like all these horrible things are going on. And basically, they're just really good at giving you answers that like satisfy your question, right?
They know the FAQs
Yeah.
that are negative, so they come up with good answers
Yeah.
for those.
And also, it's like, so one prime example, disconnection, right? There's a policy in Scientology where if you're connected to an enemy of the church, like a suppressive person, they're called an SP, right? It's basically an
Like
enemy of the church.
us.
Someone, yeah,
We're suppressive people.
100%, right? Talking smack about Scientology, right? SP.
Yeah.
Branded an SP. So their policy of disconnection is like, if you're connected to one of these people, like an enemy of the church, right, you should disconnect from them because they're going to get in your way. They're going to try and stop you from progressing in Scientology. They're saying bad stuff about it. So ultimately, you don't really want to be a part of that. But disconnection goes really far because once you're really deep in Scientology and your whole family's in it, and you've got like your kids and your wife and your husband or whatever, like everyone's in, and you decide, you know what, I'm done. Like I've done Scientology, I don't believe it anymore. Well, they get, and you're like working for the church, for example, then they're like, okay, well, you know, if you're going to go out and speak negatively about Scientology, you can do that absolutely, but your family aren't going to want to like talk to you. They're going to disconnect from you. So there are these forced disconnections where it's like they never say you have to disconnect from this person, but they say this person's getting in the way of your spiritual enlightenment. So surely you would want to disconnect from this person. Or if you don't want to disconnect from them, that's fine. You don't have to do Scientology. You can choose to go and live with them. But Scientology is your spiritual freedom and helping mankind. So they don't force you, but they coerce you, right?
But they're like, well, you don't have to not talk to nine signed. You can talk to suppressive people. That's like totally chill. But if you do, you're pretty much a suppressive person yourself and you can kind of fuck off, essentially.
Yeah, there's a label called PTS, which is what I am. I've got a piece of paper. I was
Oh,
declared a PTS, a potential trouble source, which basically
you have a
means
certificate?
yeah, it's like
Oh
I'll
my,
send it to you, or if you're watching the video, I'll put it up on the screen now.
yes.
It's a yellow document that says that I am a potential trouble source, which basically means I'm connected to a suppressive person, right? They never told me who this person was. We never found out who it was at all. But basically, they declared that if you're connected to a suppressive person and you're like, I don't, it's my dad or my mum or my sister or my wife or whatever, I'm not going to disconnect from them because my family. They would go, okay, well that's fine, but that means you're PTS because you're still connected to them, and therefore you can't do any more services until you've done X, Y, Z.
Did you
Courses or whatever.
disconnect from your whole family?
No, so my family aren't Scientologists, so I was the only one that got in. So luckily, no. But for
Oh, so
people
you
who
only
are
had
fully in,
so you didn't, because you came into Scientology by yourself and not as a part of a family, you didn't have
mhm.
to disconnect from your previous
Yeah,
affiliations. But
exactly. So I'm
did
quite lucky in
you?
that sense.
Because you felt like they were getting in the way of your spiritual growth?
No, I didn't have an issue like or a story of disconnection. It's just one of those things that happens quite a lot because Scientology is really not they claim they're the fastest growing religion in the world,
Mhm.
but actually they are probably the fastest shrinking religion in the world. They
Heck
had
yeah.
about 100,000 subscribers. God, I'm thinking YouTube.
You're a YouTuber now. You're not
They
a
have about
Scientologist anymore.
Not anymore. They had in the like their heyday in the 90s, they had like 100,000 followers, right? Roughly. And now the like most generous estimate is like maybe 35,000 worldwide.
Oh, thank God. 'Cause, not that I ever blame people for falling into cults or coercive groups. This is not victim blaming at all. Because obviously, Alex is a perfect fucking example of somebody who did their goddamn research. Because I'm always like, you guys, please just Google before you
Yeah.
join up with any groups. Just do your own research. And Alex is a perfect example of somebody who did his research. And still ended up there. Also, I want to say, um, I'm sorry, but I feel like you were a little bit of a cocky little boy you're like, oh, my 16-year-old teenage ass can take on this fucking whole church.
Yeah, there's probably a bit of cockiness, but also it was like I didn't want to take on the church, but it was like I'm aware of like what people say about it being a cult and whatever, and because I'm aware of it, I've done my research, I know what to look out for, and therefore I won't be sucked in. And the reason I bring the disconnection thing up is because that is very definitely a thing that Scientology does, and they do tear families apart. There are people I've spoken to personally who have had their families broken apart by Scientology, really deep, horrible stuff. But then you go in, I went in as a teenager and said, I hear you like split families up and all of that. And they go, no, like there is a policy of this is the answer they'd give you or give me. That there's a policy of disconnection, right? But it's often used in the wrong way, right? Disconnection. If you had like someone, a friend, or you knew someone that was bullying you or like wasn't being nice to you, you would want to not spend time with that person, right? You'd keep them at an arm's distance. You wouldn't hang out with them because you don't want to be a part of that person's life if they're being horrible to you. Disconnection is just like a way of doing that. So if someone's getting in your way of like spiritual enlightenment, then naturally you would want to disconnect from them. And that's all it is. And all of these stories of like families being disconnected and all of that, either they've not done it properly or the person doing it has decided that they want to disconnect from this person because they are getting in their way or they're not being nice to them or whatever. And it's always that person's choice. And in your head, you're
Not
kind
a
of like,
forced policy.
yeah,
Not
exactly.
forced.
And in your head, you're like, okay, well, I can kind of see how perhaps having watched this BBC thing that was quite negative about Scientology, perhaps maybe that is the case, right? I'm not going to believe what this person said in the first place, but I'm going to take it on board and think, okay, maybe that's an explanation and maybe it has been misinterpreted. And then over time, they give you all of these answers for all of your questions. And then you do a course because you think, well, what harm is it, right? You 30 quid, $30, $40, whatever. You do a course and you get a book and you answer questions and that's it. There's no like strings attached. So what's the harm done? You're in control of it. If you don't want to do it anymore, you can stop your course and leave. And that's the best way to learn about Scientology is to do it for yourself, right? Read the book, do a course.
You guys don't do it. We're telling you all about it right now. Don't do it.
Honestly,
We're giving you the whole spiel. This is it.
Almost word for word what I would say in the church as well. Like this is the sales battle, right? Of like, do it for yourself. So you think, okay, well, there's no harm done, right? I'll try it because I'll do a course, I'll read a book, and I'll be like, okay, then I can find out for myself whether Scientology is this horrible thing that it says in the media, or whether it's like actually not all that bad. I'm not saying I want to believe in everything and go for it, but like at least if I've read a book and done a course, I've experienced it and I kind of have a bit of an understanding, and then can make a really fair judgment of like it's good, it's bad, I don't care about it, whatever. So that's how they get you, because you do the one course. And then they're like, okay, cool. Well, now you go and see the reg, and you do the next course. Then you do the next course, and then you join staff, and then
all of a sudden you're the fucking head of book sales in London.
and then you just move up the bridge, and then you're Tom Cruise, and then you're a galactic alien warlord. No, I'm joking.
I was like, is Tom Cruise one? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Tom Cruise, John Travolta are probably the most well-known Scientologists. Will Smith was a Scientologist for a little while, but he vehemently denies it. Yeah.
Elizabeth Moss is a
Yes,
Scientologist. Which
yep. I was a Scientologist. I was one.
What? Hey, you're me.
It
pisses me off at Elizabeth Moss's because
she's in the Handmaid's Tale, which is
I know
being in a cult. It's quite funny, really. She's literally a leading role in like a coercive control.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. Whoa. But she actually like I've also just like really liked all the other shows she's been in. So that I like this policy where I really try not to support artists who I really disagree with what they do in their personal life.
I thought you were just gonna say I have this policy. I don't support artists. Just
fuck them. I hate creative people. I don't like that they're out here trying to make shit. I don't know what that's about.
Sorry.
No, but if in your spare time you like to like fucking rape people or have pit bull fights. I don't know. That's such a weird callback to like Michael Vick 10 years
You
ago.
know what?
But
Those two comments just made me. I have so many questions.
R
Why you went through
Kelly,
these things?
how are
But yeah.
people still listening to R. Kelly?
Mhm.
He's a fucking super known. And people are like, a remix to Ignition. It's like,
Mhm.
so just nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck. If he's making some dope jams, then we're cool that he kids on the side. Great. Anyways, that's a whole other tangent. But I try not to support artists where I just it's like Elizabeth Moss is obviously big in Scientology. So I really hate that I like her acting. So we do have to wrap this up.
I
Because
feel like
we're
we've
gonna
only just. We've not even brushed the tip of the iceberg. We're just
we've just the
slightly
tip.
softly touching it. Just that it's not gay if it's just the tip.
And how
Mm.
long were you in the church?
It depends where you draw the line because, like, I joined in like 2011, right?
Mhm.
And I stopped considering myself a Scientologist probably like 5 or 6 years later. But I was kicked
Mhm.
out of the church after 3 years. I joined in 2011. I got kicked
Uh-huh.
out. I got kicked out twice. I got kicked out in 2011,
Why?
a few months after I joined. And
Why?
then, well, that's the whole story. I basically a friend of a friend had like a cousin who worked with someone who was a suppressive person, right? Someone
Oh,
against Scientology.
right.
Never met this person, didn't know who they were. I became aware that someone had a bad Scientology experience that was vaguely connected to me. And that was enough for them to say, you can't come in, you can't do any Scientology.
But
Like
then you
you're
kept doing it on your own for a few
no,
years?
so I got kicked out, and then
Mhm.
like a year or two later, I think it was about a year, they got back in touch with me and they did what's called a board of review, right? They did a board of review, right? Where they basically look at it and they basically said, yeah, we shouldn't have kicked you out because you don't actually have a connection to a person that's against Scientology. We thought that you did, but you don't. So we're sorry, you can come back in now, and then rejoined. And then got put on staff again a second time. And then I got kicked out again finally a couple of years later. And then when I got kicked out in 2014, I like even when you get kicked out and you're really annoyed, right? Because I dedicated my life to this thing. I was like, this is the way to like help save humanity. Like this is the most
Mhm.
important thing you could do and help people. And then like you realize when you've been kicked out and you've been treated horribly and you've got all these like horrible experiences, you still believe in Scientology. Like you still think like, oh, it's not been done properly. It's not been done right. Or I'm pissed off or I'm annoyed because this hasn't, been applied in the way that it's meant to. So I still consider myself a Scientologist until probably like 2016, 2017 or something.
So,
That was probably the longest answer I could possibly have given to a very simple question of how long was I in Scientology?
no. It's interesting to know why they kicked you out, for something so small. And then do you think that's a manipulation tactic to do this border review because they know that people are itching to get back in? Or do you think there are some people who are like, fuck you, you kicked me out? Or do you think the indoctrination goes so deep that for most people, if they're invited back in, they're just like, fuck yeah.
It's like, so a board of review is like an investigation of like
Oh, a board of review.
board of review. Yeah. So
I was
it's like,
saying border review. Okay.
so it's like, it's a group of like 3 or 4 people that will come together and they look at all the evidence, right? And they investigate and they make a finding, right? And they go, based on the evidence, there was no ethics orders. There was like, Alex shouldn't have been kicked out of the church because it was misapplied, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they give you, again, I've got this certificate, the board of review findings, which says like, we shouldn't have kicked you out. This was misapplied. That shouldn't have happened. And it comforts you because like I was pissed off. I was like, really, you've kicked me out. And I'm like, this is my life. And I had friends and all of this. And, when they do that and they go, look, actually, it's not the Scientology's bad. It's that someone hasn't done it right. Someone hasn't applied it right. So,
Who didn't apply right?
well, whoever kicked you out or whoever, whatever the issue is that you're going
Oh,
through.
do they have any responsibility? The people who didn't apply it right?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. The church is never to blame. Right? The
No.
church is fine. And this is the thing that when you talk about manipulation tactics, 100%, because like the church is always right. LRH, L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology is always, there's a policy that says effectively, Scientology works 100% of the time when applied correctly 100% of the time, right? If you do it right, it works.
Caveat. If it didn't work, it's your fucking fault, asshole.
If it didn't work, it's because you didn't do it right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So this is the thing. So when they give you this board of review and they go, we shouldn't have kicked you out. I'm sorry, you can come back. You think, oh, well, actually, all of my upset and annoyance and being kicked out and they're dicks. It's like actually, no, it's not Scientology. It's the problem. It's because someone didn't do Scientology correctly. They didn't apply it in the right way. So you think, okay, well, I'll give it another chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you end up back in.
Because I mean, it's true. It's like your friends are there. You made all these connections. Now you're an SP. So you left officially in about 2017, if I'm doing math
Yeah,
right.
I got kicked out in 2014, but I was still studying courses online and doing Scientology stuff. And I kind of drifted away into the abyss, into the sunset around 2016, 2017. Yeah.
And now 6-ish years, 7. Oh my God, what is math? Years later, you've decided to start publicly discussing your experience and all the inner workings of this very secretive group. So what inspired you to do that?
I think what inspires me now, well, not inspires me, just a little side tangent of one of the things that makes it so funny, what I'm doing now, is that Scientology literally pay me to make content about them that's negative, right? Because
Today, right now?
on YouTube, you earn money through ad revenue, right? Companies pay money to display ads on YouTube. Scientology have a multi-million-dollar budget for ads, right? And as a
Wait, they
creator,
run ads on YouTube?
yeah, 100%. And as a creator, I don't have any option to choose who advertise on my channel. Like, right, they think that if someone searches Scientology, they get an ad for Scientology, but actually, it's running before an anti-Scientology video. So I'm getting ad revenue from them running ads, right?
So you get Scientology ads in your videos?
Yeah, like
That's amazing.
because if someone searches Scientology, that means that person's interested in it. So
Ding,
Scientology will
ding.
pay to like play an ad like for anyone that searches that. So they literally, right, pay me, not directly, right?
Right.
It's not like they're like, hey Alex, can we give you like $500 and you make a horrible video like telling us how shit we are? And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. It's not like that.
Totally. Right.
It's just they don't realize that that's what they're doing. It's not intentional, but it is quite funny.
So on a lot of these Scientology channels on YouTube, you would say there's a lot of Scientology ads. These
Oh,
on the anti-Scientology channels, there's a lot of ads for Scientology.
100%.
Ugh,
And
that
it's
makes
not
me really happy
Scientology's
for some
fault.
reason. I don't know.
It's literally because like it's the way a search engine works, right? If you are searching for, you want to buy a new bike or something, right? You type in bikes on Google. Any company that's selling bikes will put an ad there because you've searched for bikes, you're interested in buying a bike. So therefore a company it's the same with Scientology. If you search for Scientology, that shows you're interested in it. Even if you're like completely anti-Scientology and you're searching it to like watch videos about trauma and abuse and how fucked up it is, like that the algorithm doesn't recognize that. So yeah, they pay all of us YouTube creators indirectly, and they're not even aware that they're doing it, but they pay all of us in ad revenue, which I think is hilarious.
That is amazing. Speaking of traumas and abuses that people suffer, you are obviously in there for a while. I think that is probably not something that we should get into today. That's we don't want
It's a
to
bit
end
deep.
things on a super fucking
No.
downer note. I think your story as to some of the awful things that you went through, I'm sure. I mean, I'm making assumptions, but I'm guessing you went through. Did you go through some bad shit? God, I
Oh,
should stop
yeah.
talking for you. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, you were up there, like, so. I don't think that I know that with this episode we're introducing you, but I don't think that we need to tell the whole fucking story. I mean, also, this is a weekly segment, y'all, so just get ready to
Get fucked up.
get rained on. Yeah, get fucked up on Ash and Alex doing Scientology.
I love it. Ash and Alex do Scientology.
I'm having so much fun already. It's crazy. We have to go. So, how do you sign? Like, should we both do a sign off? I don't even know. Like, what do you usually normally sign
I
off your
feel like we need
videos
to
with?
have some sort of like theme
Double
tune,
sign off. Oh,
like some sort of dance for the viewers. I don't know. I normally just say, okay, bye, and then end my videos, which is very unexciting. And I feel like we should do something.
we need a catchphrase.
Fuck Scientology.
Yeah, that is catchy. It's so on the spot. I mean, I have a way that I end my fucking show, but that's
How do you end your show? Maybe we'll figure out a way to end our show for the next one. So
I think
that's why you need to listen and watch episode 2, if only for the ending, because we will have a way of ending the video by then.
Oh, we will. Oh, and comment ideas.
Yes.
On
So on YouTube, like,
YouTube.
comment, subscribe, all of that, because that helps with the algorithm and all that jazz. But if you comment, like, I'll read the comments, and like, if you want me to talk about something or Ashley to talk about something, like, we can. Right, we'll read the comments and we'll cover whatever topics. I don't know how it works on the podcasty thing. Is it a similar thing with comments?
No. If you wanted to get a hold of me at TSFU, the podcast on Instagram, or mostly Instagram. You guys, please leave votes for or comments if you can think of a really catchy sign off for us, because I'm gonna tell
Great
you,
idea.
that's not my forte. I haven't.
That's why they pay you the big bucks, Ashley.
I've never once thought of a sign off, and I've had multiple segments, and I don't know. It's
This is the moment. This is
I
the
can't
moment
do
we
it.
find your sign off. This is how we do it.
Our sign
find
off,
something for you.
Alex. Our sign off. It's for us.
But I wouldn't be offended if there's a really good one. If someone leaves like a really cool idea, take it, go with it.
Well,
I
okay.
support you in everything.
I support
you
you too. But I'm greedier than Alex apparently, because like my name needs to be a part of the title. Alex is like, oh, whatever.
That's why it's Ash
needs-
and Alex, not Alex and Ash. It's Ash and Alex.
Well, I thought about that, and it just has a better ring to it. You know,
because you're first.
And it was
No,
my idea.
I agree.
And it was my idea.
Better than Alex and Ash.
I always take credit for my ideas. I'm like, nah, I thought of that. So rate, subscribe, and review to Apostate Alex on YouTube and Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to That's So Fucked Up, and rate, subscribe, and review there too. Same fucking spiel. So we love you guys. Thank you for listening. Fuck Scientology, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Right? Later, Captain.